Coming up on Cronkite News, a Tucson Court of Appeals hears arguments about enforcing an 1864 state abortion law.
Plus, new developments in the Coyotes' proposal for a new arena in Tempe, what the city council decided last night, and when voters will get their say.
And later, one of the winningest coaches in Arizona girls high school basketball history is making a comeback. Find out how many more games he plans to win.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Ryan Tismaneski.
And I'm Maddie Freeze. Thank you for joining us. The legal battle over abortion is still ongoing in Arizona, and some have likened the back and forth to one wild roller coaster ride.
Today, oral arguments were presented as a Tucson Court of Appeals weighs whether a pre-statehood abortion ban should go into effect. Cronkite News health reporter Geraldine Torellis is at a Planned Parenthood in Phoenix to tell us more about how this battle is playing out.
Whiplash is a word that's been used to describe the state of abortion in Arizona since Roe v. Wade was overturned in June and regulation of the procedure was returned to the states. Arizona is still trying to determine which of two possible bans is the law of the land: a pre-statehood ban on all abortions except to save the pregnant person's life, or a newer law that prohibits abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancy. Attorney General Mark Brnovich has been fighting for the older ban to take effect. After a court ruled in his favor in September, Planned Parenthood requested a stay that was denied and then appealed that. During today's arguments, a representative of the Attorney General's office indicated that both the older law and newer law could remain on the books together. At least two appellate judges indicated that they disagreed. A decision is not expected immediately. In Phoenix, Geraldine Torellis, Cronkite News.
President Biden is traveling to Phoenix next week. He'll be touring a semiconductor plant in the valley to talk about his new economic plan. He's expected to address supply chain issues and discuss his plan for rebuilding the manufacturing sector in the U.S. The trip comes after the CHIPS and Science Act became law in early August, including $52 billion to boost domestic production of semiconductors. President Biden will be at the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company next Tuesday.
Last night, the Tempe City Council met to approve of sending the Arizona Coyotes development proposal to a public referendum in the spring. Cronkite News reporter Adam Schwager joins us from the Google touchscreen to explain what Tempe residents need to know before deciding on the massive project.
Currently, this area is a city-owned landfill near the Tempe Town Lake waterfront. This artist rendering shows what the area on Rio Salado Parkway and Priest Drive would look like if this project gets completed. The 46-acre project would include the Coyotes' new home in Tempe, a smaller music venue, 2 new hotels, apartment units, shops, and restaurants. The new development would dramatically expand that downtown area in Tempe, but what will it cost? The entire project is estimated to take $2.1 billion to complete, 1.9 of which will be privately financed by the Coyotes ownership group. The other portion, estimated to be $209 million and capped at $229 million, will be funded by bonds. Those bonds will be repaid to the city through new taxes. And speaking of taxes, there will be no new state or regional taxes passed on to the citizens. The only new taxes will be through on-site sales. So if you never purchase anything at the arena, there will be no impact to your wallet. The city is also giving the developers a G-plet, a form of property tax forgiveness that sites that generate economic impact for the city. Unlike all the other major arenas in the state of Arizona, which have G-plets in perpetuity, Tempe is granting a 30-year G-plet for the arena, practice facility, and music venue, while granting an 8-year G-plet for the other sites on the campus. And last but not least, how long will this take? The arena right here, that's the first priority. That's going to get done first. The whole rest of that right side, that is phase 1, which they aim to complete in about 5 years. They hope to get the rest of it with phase 2 on this left side done 10 years after ground break. Should the Coyotes get the necessary signatures, the referendum will take place on May 16th. At the Google touchscreen, Adam Schwager, Cronkite News.
A local indigenous business in Mesa hopes to inspire others to chase their dreams.
Cronkite News reporter Connor McGill looks into this business and the overall economic impact the indigenous community has in Arizona.
It's a food product well known to the indigenous community, typically shared as a side dish.
It's like a flat piece of bread that's not deep fried, it's shallow fried on each side, and it's savory. You could put sweet stuff on it, and you can put proteins on it.
Hope Peshlakai is the owner of Hope's Fry Bread in Mesa, which opened in October, serving fry bread and other traditional Navajo dishes. But it's more than just a piece of bread, bringing hope, education, and community.
Sharing my culture, sharing my food, my love of my people, and of our history, that although it was a dark history, that we have persevered, and we're here today, and we're strong.
According to the latest data from the U.S. Small Business Administration, less than 0.08 of Arizona businesses are Native-owned. The Arizona American Indian Chamber of Commerce says it wants to grow the indigenous business footprint.
So there are a lot of people that want to work in the tribal community and just don't know how.
Colton Schoen, a reporter and anchor for AZ Family, has reported on indigenous communities for many years. He understands some of the barriers.
When it comes to businesses, I find that a lot of the Native people are trying to find out how they can do this because it can be tough.
Which is one reason Schoen wants to highlight the community in his work.
We are in many different fields, and we just want people to know that we want to be represented too in everything.
Peshlakai is hopeful her success inspires others in the indigenous community to start up their own businesses.
Don't be afraid. Get that confidence because you can do it.
Peshlakai continues to educate people about the importance of indigenous culture, one delicious dish at a time. In Mesa, Connor McGill, Cronkite News.
Hope's Fry Bread is looking to expand to 5 locations within the next 5 years across the valley.
You can find more information on how you can join the Indian American Chamber of Commerce at aiccaz.com.
The typical work week might be about to change. A new study shows that a 4-day weekly job schedule seems to benefit everyone in the workplace. The 6-month study included 903 employees from 33 companies who made the schedule change with no change in pay. Researchers with the nonprofit 4-Day Week Global say average revenue rose nearly 40% compared to the same period the year before, with a 5-day schedule in place. The workers involved said they also liked the schedule change and felt less stress and burnout. But only a few of the companies involved say they plan on keeping the 4-day schedule, at least for now.
Still ahead on Cronkite News, one of Gilbert's best investigators of suspicious fires isn't who you might think. How Zeta the Labrador is helping the city's fire and rescue team.
We have increasing clouds, but temperatures hold fairly seasonable going into the weekend. Plus, we may have some rain chances come back into the forecast. I'll have the latest in weather.
It's prime time on your time. Watch Prime Afternoons every weekday on Arizona PBS. Did you miss a show in the evening? Then catch up on Prime Afternoons. Your favorite dramas.
No more bloody heroics.
Antiques Roadshow.
Really?
Nature and Nova.
It's time to reintroduce some wonder into this miracle of nature.
All of the best from PBS on Prime Afternoons. Weekdays starting at 1:30, only on Arizona PBS. When you support Arizona PBS, you plant a seed. Seeds that provide educational outreach in our community. Seeds that put our digital resources to work. Seeds that foster the trusted news coverage you expect from PBS. And seeds that continue the amazing PBS programs you love. But our garden can't keep growing without your support. Visit our website to see all the ways you can help our garden grow. Plant a seed with Arizona PBS today.
The valley saw temps in the 70s today, but the 60s are on the way.
Evan Liss is in the Cronkite News Weather Center. Evan, when will we see these temps drop?
Yeah, we're in the 70s right now and fairly clear. We're starting to see some higher level clouds move into the area. However, as you said, we have big changes starting to move in as we have two large winter storm systems moving into the western United States off of the Pacific. And that's going to increase our cloudiness as well as some of our rain chances going into the weekend. Taking a look at our slice of the west now, you can see widespread cloud cover by tomorrow afternoon across the state. Same story, or I should say fairly similar story on Friday. Before on Saturday, you can start to see that green making its way on this model into our state, and that is what's happening as the center of the storm system's approaching with its moisture. Looking at your day planner tomorrow, you're probably going to wake up in the upper 40s if you're living in the Valley of the Sun. It's that time of the year. December 1st is actually the first day of meteorological winter. It's what us weather people use to tell the seasons. 11 a.m. we're going to be at 62 degrees, 2 p.m. and 5 p.m. 69 degrees before we drop down to the lower 60s by 8 p.m. Taking a look at other parts of the state now, it's going to be a fairly similar story across the lower deserts. I will say the amount of cloud cover that any one place on this map gets is going to change what its high temperature is going to be from the lower 70s to the upper 60s. Colorado River Valley, this model is expecting it cloud cover there as we're going to be the upper 60s, and then we're going to be the 50s and 40s for northern Arizona, and it's also going to be pretty breezy up there tomorrow. Looking into the end of the week here, you can see the cloudiness and the storminess on there before we dry out at the other side of the weekend. We dry out and we start to go into the mid-60s. Winter's here, everybody. For now, I'm Evan Liss in the Cronkite News Weather Center.
Gilbert's arson dog is helping solve investigations across the state and country. Zeta is Arizona's only nationally certified dog for arson investigations.
Cronkite News reporter Sydney Whitty met Zeta and her handler as they trained one morning here in the Valley.
As an arson dog, Zeta is constantly trained to keep up her skills. In fact, she went through a 6-week training program in Virginia to get certified back in 2019.
And show me. Let's get that hand. Oh, show me.
David Zaring is a Gilbert fire investigator and handler to Zeta, the only ATF certified dog in Arizona. On this day, he's preparing the warehouse for morning training.
Let's see if this works.
By dripping accelerants like gasoline and lighter fluid onto different surfaces for Zeta to find.
Just put a little bit right there on that sleeve.
She knows it's time to start sniffing when she hears the words,
"You want to go to work?"
Even though Zeta is assigned to the Gilbert Fire Department, she's been helping fire departments across the country and locally for the past few years. After a fire, if arson is suspected, Zeta is called in to quickly locate any accelerants that may have caused it.
Because of her nose and being able to go right in and pinpoint where that accelerant is at, it just multiplies the success rate for that investigator to be able to send it into the crime lab to get a positive alert on that sample.
Zeta was certified as an ATF dog in 2019, but she still trains twice a day for 365 days a year in order to maintain her skills.
When she walks up, she will zigzag because she's checking both sides of the steps. Every training we do is going to be like what we would work in a fire scene. So when we get there, it's not a surprise to her. She's going to know exactly how she needs to perform in order to get that task done.
She has investigated about 80 fires over the past 3 years. Thanks to her nose, cases have been solved quickly and efficiently.
Good girl.
Zeta was called out to Chicago during 2020 and worked 26 fires in 9 days. In the newsroom, Sydney Whitty, Cronkite News.
I'm Emily Bernstein. Coming up after the break, I'll have your Cronkite Sports Report. One Coyotes legend has traded in his hockey stick for a mallet. More on his newfound sport next.
Right up in here and start having some fun.
Such a thrill to be able to do this.
Recreation is the gateway drug to conservation.
How do you create that perfect straight edge? You can do anything. History is today. Chasing the American dream.
Experience something personal.
A place of imagination.
I can go anywhere I want to go.
You guys are just gonna love it.
An entertainment experience unlike anything.
There's something for everyone with Passport on the PBS Video app.
On Masterpiece Mystery.
Evil can find its roots so easily in an English village.
The landscape of criminal investigation.
Murder, almost certainly.
Modern policing methods.
We endeavor to do our best.
We're working hard to solve this case.
And to make sure justice gets done.
It's a new adventure.
And the rest, as they say, is mystery.
I can hardly wait.
Art was one of the powers that made life life. I think we all believed that.
This is a real life story of a real live person.
This was my only connection to my culture.
Fight the powers.
Our stories deserve to be heard.
You're passionate and you respect your heritage. That is a perfect recipe.
Now is the time for the Reformation. Now is the time to rebuild the nation.
That's amazing.
You're making me cry.
Some girls can go out there and just steal a spotlight.
This is the moment that we've all been waiting for.
Everyone has something to contribute to humanity. The arts are the thing that does that.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Welcome back to the Cronkite Sports Report. I'm Emily Bernstein. Earlier in the show, we told you how the voters in Tempe will have the final say in the Coyotes' $2.1 billion arena plan. The City Council approved the measure for public referendum. And NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman flew into town last night for the momentous occasion. The commissioner has been very vocal about his support for keeping the franchise in the Valley and thanked ASU for sharing Mullet Arena with the Coyotes as their temporary home. Bettman is steadfast in his belief that the Coyotes not only belong in the Valley, but can thrive here.
We've been as committed to this community as any major league sports league could be. I mean, there's no question about that. Just look at the actions and look at the history, and that commitment from us has never wavered.
Now to a story about a former Coyotes great, Shane Doan, who has made his way from an ice rink to a grassy field. Cronkite News reporter Nikki Pica has more on the Coyotes legend, who has a new passion for polo.
Hockey is not the only thing the Doan name is known for. While growing up in Alberta, Canada, Shane Doan found himself in a saddle for most of his young life.
You know what, I grew up doing that more than I did anything else. Until I was about 15 or 16, that was kind of, I lived at home, and during the weekends we would have groups out that I'd take trail riding. And then during the summer we'd ride from about 8 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Doan's family has a legacy in the cowboy world. His grandfather, great-uncles, and uncle were inducted into the Canadian Rodeo Hall of Fame. Shane chose the path less traveled by the Doan family.
My joke is if I wasn't tough enough to be a cowboy, so I had to be a hockey player, and I enjoyed it a lot.
Doan took his experience on horseback and elite hand-eye coordination and used it to his advantage.
Playing hockey and my ability to ride the combination would be a good combo. So I thought about it. They asked me to roll the ball out, which is to start the polo match last year. And when after I rolled the ball out, I sat and watched, and I was like, oh, this would be fun.
Shane Doan makes his debut in his first ever polo match after a month long of training for this special day.
He's used to following orders and following what you tell him to do, right? But he has a special talent, you know. He got the mallet, the strings, like if he has done this before. He has developed this special connection with the horses that he has ridden. First thing that I remember about him is that he came and he asked for the name of the horse. Usually people don't do that. They just come and they just get on the horse and they use it like it's a bike.
And Shane felt comfortable. He took the field and competed in his first polo match in front of a packed Westworld field. Gallery dressed to the nines in hats and slacks. Shane wore number 19, the number he wore with the Arizona Coyotes, along with an ear-to-ear smile. In Scottsdale, Nikki Pica, Cronkite News.
Besides polo, Doan can still be seen on the ice as he is working with the Coyotes as their Chief Hockey Development Officer. The College Football Playoff Committee released the rankings last night, which makes the bowl picture a little clearer. Remember, the Verbo Fiesta Bowl here in Glendale will be a playoff semifinal game. As we look at the rankings, the top 4 teams at the moment who would make the playoffs are Georgia, Michigan, TCU, and USC. Sitting just outside at 5 and 6 are Ohio State and Alabama. If the Trojans make the playoffs, there's a possibility they will play in the Fiesta Bowl. And with a spot in the Final Four, the Pac-12 conference as a whole would receive $6 million to be divided by all of the teams, which of course would benefit ASU and Arizona.
While the rankings from the start have led up to Sunday, and we know a lot based on last night's rankings, the rankings that really matter are the final ones. So it gives us an idea of what we can expect now based on, where things are going. You can make some educated guesses.
The ASU men's basketball team takes on Colorado tomorrow night, but the conversation is less about who's on the court and more about who isn't. Sun Devil forward Marcus Bagley has not played since November 10th. He recently took his frustration to Twitter. Bagley tweeted a long message saying in part, "Out of frustration, I made a mistake and said some things to Coach Hurley that I shouldn't have." He later tweeted that he had been suspended for that post. Head coach Bobby Hurley issued a statement saying Bagley would be out for tomorrow's conference opener for violating team rules. Bagley was a part of ASU's historic 2020 recruiting class, but it's been a disappointing tenure in Tempe. The winningest high school girls basketball coach in Arizona history has come out of retirement to coach a former player's team. Cronkite News reporter Liam Barrett went to Desert Ridge High School to talk to the program's new head coach.
Minor Webster retired in 2018 as the winningest head coach in Arizona high school girls basketball history. Now he's coming back to coach Desert Ridge. If you're wondering what brought him back, it wasn't the time off.
Retirement was great. I highly recommend it to anybody.
Webster was happy in retirement, but when his former star player Erin O'Brien had to step down for personal reasons, she asked him to take over her head coaching role. The opportunity was too good to pass up. Current player Ariel Walker says that Webster hasn't missed a beat since last coaching.
Even though he is retired for about 4 or 5 years, you can tell coming back, he still got it, he knows what he's doing, and he's a really good basketball coach.
Webster has accomplished more at his position than anybody, winning over 800 games in his career. But that might not last for long. Seton Catholic head coach Karen Self is approaching his record win total, something Webster says he's not worried about.
What we've accomplished, it means a lot to me, but it means a lot to me because of the kids that I had that accomplished it. Hopefully we're going to get some wins this year, and it's going to up my total a little bit probably, but Coach Self over at Seton is going to catch me eventually.
Webster humbly projects a few wins, but the goal is to win another title. With 8 championships under his belt, the team is already feeling the impact of having such a legendary coach.
Honestly, it gives us a lot more confidence, I'd say. Having a coach that we know has already taken so many teams so far, I want to be able to be that team for him as well.
In what could be the last season of an Arizona Basketball Hall of Famer's career, Desert Ridge looks to add to Webster's storied history. In Mesa, Liam Barrett, Cronkite News.
So far, Webster has the team off to a 2-2 start to the season. That does it for this edition of Cronkite Sports Report. Back to you, Ryan.
Coming up after the break, you may have heard of rising superstar Megan Thee Stallion. Find out how the rapper is making history.
We tell ourselves stories as a nation.
These stories need to be highlighted. They need to be explored. We're the dreamers.
How serious is America's commitment to looking at its history? How can we learn from the past?
Douglas said, "You're going to look me in the eye and see my humanity."
It's illuminating. I'm seeing the expansiveness of my history.
It's pretty great.
There's so much richness to Black life and Black culture.
I think the story of Muslims in America is the story of America.
Tonight, they are free.
I cannot imagine how excited he must have been.
It's a wonderful feeling. This is why we do this.
It makes me even more committed to struggling for a better world.
Welcome. How utterly charming. Are you ready to get it going? How does an English fan come to be Italian Riviera?
A fresh start.
Can I trust you? can't be afraid to show them what you've got, what you want.
Are we having a party?
Of course, the more the merrier.
I love this place. It's my home now. Trouble in paradise. I can't do it on my own.
This is revenge.
There are consequences.
Be careful. Nothing like this. Nothing like this. Oh. You look like you need rescuing.
Don't we all?
What is it that you want?
I just want to let go.
I choose how I live.
There is the passion that I've been looking for.
Famous rapper Megan Thee Stallion makes history as the first black woman on the cover of Forbes 30 Under 30.
At 27 years old, she made an estimated $13 million in 2022.
In 2016, the Houston native was a nursing student while creating hip-hop videos. In 2018, she signed on to her first label and took off, now partnering with huge music stars like Beyonce, Nicki Minaj, and BTS. In 2020, her collaboration with Cardi B generated almost 2 billion streams. A world tour, Netflix deal, and a documentary are all in the future for the rising superstar.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight.
Thanks for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.